Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. Said to answer my door quick. So anyways, we were buffing out the wax in a circular motion. Get it all nice and shiny. Like I said, this is a good time to get in between your pickups and underneath the strings where it's normally kind of difficult to get into. So once you've buffed, now turn your cloth over on the dry side and buff it one more time. Get that nice shine on her. Now this is just a quick polish. Because we have the strings off, I will do a little more intensive polish later on. But we'll save that for last. Okay, so nice and shiny and nicely protected on the top. So next, now we're going to install our strings. Fun part. Alright, so this time I thought I'd try out these DR glow-in-the-dark orange strings. Thought they'd look pretty good on my orange flame guitar. Alright, so for this tremolo system, there's a few ways you can restring it. My way is probably the most traditional and probably takes the longest, but I find it's the best way to string one of these up. So, what we're going to do is snip off all the ball ends. Now there are ways of doing this without cutting off the ball ends. Some people like to kind of leave them on up at your tuning heads, but I think it looks a little sloppy. But tell you what, I'll show you how to do it. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to put in your string backwards. You're going to put it through the tuning key and then run it down to the tremolo, so the ball end is what is hooking up in here. So once you have it pulled through, what you're going to do is then measure. And rule of thumb is you're going to snip it at the just behind the fine tuning key. Pretty much measure it out to the end of the tremolo, holding it at the tuning head. That'll give you just enough to give you 2 wraps after you lock it in. Like I said, I don't really like that way, but I figured I'll show you how to do it if that's how you want to do it. So, my way of putting on my strings, I start by snipping off the ball end. You're going to grab your Allen key and loosen off the lock again. You're going to put in the newly snipped off end. Make sure it's all the way down at the bottom. Push until you feel it hit the bottom. Hold it in place. Tighten it up. Again, doesn't have to be super tight. You do not have to reef on anything on tremolo system. You'll just break it and have an expensive repair ahead of you. So, too tight, give it a slight bit more, that's it. Now, here, I'll turn this around so you can see it a little better. So now that it's locked in, what we're going to do is run it up. Now for your outside strings, you can actually just run it to the tuning head and then tuck it in after. For all the strings in the middle, make sure that you run it underneath of the bar. So, where to snip your string, or where to bend it, I should say. My little technique seems to work well, but you gotta find which works best for you. With my hand, if I put my hand underneath the string and then lift up my pinky finger as much as I can. So I'm doing that right on my 12th fret, and then pull it tight. And then put your crimp up here, and that's how long that string should be. Now, for your lower 3 strings, your thick strings, you're going to want to push as hard as you can with your pinky. That's what I find works the best. For your top 3, your thinnest strings, I find just about a halfway kind of in there, just up above. You don't need to push all that much. But experiment with your own hand. You can even use like objects. Roll of tape. It's pretty close as well. Put it underneath, pull it tight, and put your crimp on. Alright. So, we got our length we need. I'm going to zoom in here for a sec. So, the crimp I'm talking about is once it's, at the right length, you take your string and you push it around the head. That'll give you a nice little bend like that, which will hook on to the tuning peg. I like to squish it a little bit more, and there you go. Now you got a great hook that's gonna grip on as you're tuning up the guitar. So there we go. So now you can grab your pig winder, start winding it up. As you can see, that nice hook is gripping like crazy. Now, once you have it 3/4 of a way wrapped around, you're going to pull that string tight behind the retaining bar. That'll give you nice tension and a nice tight wrap as you're winding it up. Keep some tension on it. You don't have to pull super hard, but just so it's under tension. And go till you have tension on the string. You don't have to go to pitch just yet, just enough so you have tension. So now we're going to snip off the extra string and continue that process throughout the all 6 strings. I'm going to do the strings first, and then we'll snip them off. As for actually putting these strings onto the guitar, there's no real set way. They all need to go on one way or another. Where we have to get into specific orders when we start tuning, but we will get to that in a minute. So, like I said, loosen it off, push it down to the bottom, make sure it's all the way, give it a tighten, pull it up through the top, Now I forgot to mention one little tip. This will just make your life easier when you're restringing, especially on a tremolo system, but this is a good tip to use for any guitar. Your tuning pegs, the holes, should be running with the strings. So they're all pointing up and down. That'll just help you guide your strings in easily and make tuning a lot easier. So let's put it back a little bit. So again, put your hand in, hold it up, give it a push, make your crimp, Bend it a little more. And then wind it up. So there we go. We're going to keep doing this for all 6 strings. one. So there we go. We've got all our strings on. Now it's a little tedious to watch, but I wanted to do a fully explained example. So thank you for bearing with me. So there we go. We have our strings all put on, nicely wrapped. So I'm going to go ahead and snip off the extra. Some people don't snip off the extra, but I find for a Floyd Rose, you can't really reuse strings anyway. So we'll go ahead and snip them off. Try and snip them. Here, I'll turn this around again so you can see. So what you're going to want to do, there we go, there's a nice close-up. You're going to want to hold it out, use the flat side of your snips, and get as close to the tuning peg as you can. Put the extras off to the side. Oh, that's okay. There we go, nice and close. No jagged edges to stab you. Perfect. Alright, so we have our strings on. All ready to go. So, now what we need to do is put our tremolo bar back in. You don't have to put it all the way in, just give it a few turns, make sure it's nice and snug in there. Alright, so our next step is to take out, if you can get it out, a little block or whatever you're using. So, see, not bad, it's actually fairly close to where it has to go. So, if you are going to change strings and you're using the same string gauge, all you need to do now is tune it up. Unfortunately, I had slightly heavier strings on. I've actually just went to a super light set, 9-42 on this, because it's going to go to standard. So, since I've changed the gauge of strings, what I need to do now is adjust the tension on the back here. Now, let's see if I can get this to stand up for a second. There we go. On your back plate, it tells you which way to turn for which tension. You're going to roll up to take off some of the tension. You're going to roll down to increase the tension on the springs. So since I'm going down a little bit, going to lighter strings, I'm going to want to let a little bit of tension off of the springs. Usually don't have to go too much, a turn or two is usually enough. Now what we're going to want to do is start to tune. So I will grab my tuning pedal and set this up, and we'll get back to it.